Hello and welcome to all you TLBTV viewers out there. My name is Lorana Hoops and you're watching Right the World. The show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. This is, of course, the show where we talk to all sorts of different authors and writers from all sorts of genres. We give you some great books to read and, of course, we give you some tips and tricks along the way. And today I'm super excited to have another native Texan on the show. This is Kristen Etheridge. How are you doing today, Kristen?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited to speak to somebody from Texas. I miss Texas. I grew up in Texas, not in the same area because you grew up, I believe, in Galveston, correct?
Well, I grew up on the other side of Houston. I was born in Galveston. I grew up on the other side of Houston in Katy, and then I moved back after I got married.
Okay, very cool. I grew up in Lubbock, which was a little more dry. And I remember my first trip to Galveston and I thought, I don't know how people live like this because I stepped off the plane and my hair went.
Yes, my dad actually started at college at Texas Tech. He eventually transferred from there, but he spent a couple of years in Lubbock. So I've heard
That's amazing
stories about how dry Lubbock is. But
yes,
it's and my I have a nanny who helps me with my 3 kiddos, and her whole family is a bunch of tech grads. And so she tried teaching my kids guns up early on in the relationship. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but we don't do that in our house. Football's a big thing for those of you who are not from Texas.
Right.
College football and your team, and my husband and I went to the same university, so we are not a mixed marriage household. We are both Baylor Bears, so
okay,
we can't have any of that cross conference stuff being taught around here. But her dad played for Tech, and so they're huge Tech people. We hang out with them. We like them.
Yes.
Okay, we can get along with people from other.
We can get along with people. We just don't flash the signs.
Guns up. No, we're all in this house.
Okay, bear claws. All right.
Chicken bears.
I almost went to Baylor. I visited Baylor once when I was in high school doing debate stuff, and I really liked it.
You wouldn't recognize the place now. I don't recognize the place. I spent 4 years there, and every time we go back now, it's incredible what they have done. It's like they've done so much building, and they are so beautiful. The new football stadium is right on the river, and it opens up to the river. And so
wow.
From where our seats are, you can see out, and it's, it's amazing. It's one of Tennessee, I know, opens, their stadium opens to the river. I don't know if anyone else does, but they do like sailgating. People bring their boats down to tailgate outside the stadium. And it's an amazing experience. But I had such a wonderful time there. But yeah, they've done so much building and change, and then, I think it's, nothing stays the same, right? But when I get there, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
That's how I feel every time I go back to Lubbock. I used to know how to drive there, and now I'm like, I don't want to drive. I don't know where anything is. They've changed whole streets. There's like all these new, I don't want to call them interstates because they're not, but here they would be like interstates. But all these new overpasses and things that I'm like, I don't know where this goes. I don't know how to get off it. I don't know, where is my slide road? Like that's
exactly. I feel like that when I go back to Katy too, because it's like 27,000 times the size that it was when like we moved there in 1985.
Yeah.
And like the main street was like a 2-lane road, and now it's like 3 lanes, but it's not the main street anymore. There's like 16 other main streets, and there's flyovers, and there's the Grand Parkway Texas 99 that loops around. Oh my gosh, it's insane.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your books. So your books are actually based on Galveston Beach, right? The area?
Well, I write in a town called like my own little world, fictional town called Port Providence, Texas, because I figure everyone needs a little sweet escape down to the beach. And so being able to bring the beach to readers, I like that. So I figure a little vacation for everyone on their Kindle is probably a good thing. So my stories are set in Port Providence, Texas, which is based on Galveston, Texas, which is my hometown. And like I said earlier in the interview, I was born there. So I am what's known as a BOI, born on the island. It's a thing there. So I'm a BOI. And then we moved away from my dad's job when I was little, and I wound up growing up on the other side of Houston. You know, lots of drives to Galveston as a kid. But after I got married, my husband and I actually moved back. We had a store there and some other stuff. And so we lived there for about 5 years. And so we went through Hurricane Ike in 2008. And so that came through, and we did the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. We did a lot of stuff while we were there. None of it particularly fun, but memorable. So a lot of my books have influences from my time there, people I knew there, places that were there that, you know, nothing is a direct copy. It's all kind of in my head, but those are the things that I have in mind while I'm writing. And my Hurricane Hope series is actually set in Port Providence, going through a hurricane named Hope and the recovery from that. And so I've got 4 books in that series. There's Shelter from the Storm, Doctor's Unexpected Family, His Texas Princess, and Holiday of Hope. And then I actually have a companion nonfiction book called Storm Surge. And it is kind of my memoir of going through that, the life lessons I learned, how a hurricane that, you know, wiped out our home and our business actually wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me, and how we don't all go through hurricanes, but we all go through storms in our lives. And so what are the lessons that we learn to help us rise above that and become even better people through adversity? And so that's kind of the story behind those 4 stories. So it's really, it's a 4-book series with a companion nonfiction.
That's awesome. What would you say were some of the hardest things about going through a hurricane that you maybe hadn't expected?
You know, I think one of the hardest things, and I think it's true anytime you get into a situation, whether it is a relationship breaking down, or it is financial trouble, or it's medical trouble, whatever those are, when it starts to really affect you, it's the loss of control, right? I am out of my element. I cannot fix this today, right? I can't miraculously make myself well. I can't miraculously make my spouse come back home today. I can't pay the bill if there's nothing in my bank account, and I've got nothing to sell, and I've got nothing to go do to get more money, right? It's that loss of control, and it really eats at you. And the same is true in a hurricane. I mean, I can't control weather, right?
That's true.
We watched, they call them spaghetti models. If you look at the model of the Gulf, and it's got all of the little, this particular weather group makes this prediction, this one makes this prediction. They put them all on one model, and it looks like someone threw spaghetti at the Gulf Coast, and whichever one winds up being. And so we had, been watching them for a while. And so we knew there was a strong chance that it was going to go into Galveston, but even, 48 hours, 3 days, 2-3 days before, they were still thinking it was going to go a little bit more towards Port Arthur, and that we would just probably wind up with a tropical storm. We'd been through several of those. We've been through Category 1 hurricanes. That didn't really bother us. I mean, it's wind, it's rain, it's annoying for 2 days, and then you're fine.
Right.
But Hurricane Ike was a little different, and he wound up making just a solid bullseye on Galveston and Bolivar right there. And so Galveston Island is actually 2 islands. Well, it's 1 island, and then there's another island next to it, Bolivar. So they're right there, split by the ship channel and the channel in between them. And it actually went in pretty much to Bolivar, but hit Galveston, but they're like right there. They're just next door.
Right.
There's not much difference, except that you've got to take a ferry to get between the 2 of them. There's not a road. You have to take a boat. But so you can't control that. And they kept saying that Hurricane Ike was going to be a Category 2. Okay, well, Category 2, sure, not too bad. It wound up being a Category 2 as far as like the wind strength, but the storm surge that it brought in was actually a Category 4. So it had considerably more damage than people realized, or that it even sounded like, oh, Category 2 hurricane, no big deal. But it was actually, the damage was equivalent to a Category 4 hurricane. Almost 90 something percent of homes in Galveston had some kind of damage from this hurricane.
Wow, that's lots.
So really, most of the island was touched by the hurricane. So, you know, there was that loss of control, and then it keeps going on, and so that it's not a short-term thing, and that's
Right.
a crisis, right? That's so we couldn't get back on the island because it was a mess. And you know, there's martial law and boiling water and all that stuff, and so we were at my parents' house in Katy, and you know, it was a week before, just about, before we could get back in. It was several days, and you know, you don't know. And
Right.
of course, the newscasters are going to show the worst stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, is my house still there? Are my things still there? And things are things, right? And we're always told, well, don't get wrapped up in things. And it sounds really great until it's your stuff and it's forcibly taken away from you. And I remember one of the hardest things was when we were cleaning out the house, and when my grandfather passed away when I was in second grade, and one thing that I had of his was this big recliner that he had been given when he retired from his job, and it just always represented my grandpa to me. And it wasn't anything fancy. It was like from Sears, right? I mean, it was not. There's nothing special about the recliner, except that most of my memories of my grandpa were of me sitting on the arm of the recliner eating peanuts with him watching TV. And so I had that over the years, and it come with me many, many places. And at that time, we had a 6-month-old at the time of the hurricane. His daughter was 6 months old then. And the recliner was in her room. And like, that's where she would fall asleep, you know, if she fell asleep while she was feeding or something like that. Well, a 30-year-old Sears recliner didn't really hold up very well to the amount of water that was in our house.
Oh.
And so that was hard, having to.
Yeah.
And we took it out to the curb, because they had crews that came around and removed all of this stuff. I mean, it's not just trash day. Like, it's your fridge, it's your washing machine, it's all of your, you know, the drywall in your house, and your insulation and your flooring and your furniture and your everything, right?
Ugh.
Taking it out. And so it's constant trucks and stuff. And they had, down at the end of our street, was kind of a cul-de-sac, and they had a, you know, big container kind of thing that they were putting all the stuff in. And it was front end loaders going up and down the street, picking up the stuff and taking it to the container. And we had moved the recliner out there, and I was kind of holding it together. And for whatever reason, you don't always do totally rational things, but for whatever reason, I decided I wanted the slip cover that I had put on this recliner. Makes no sense. I just wanted the slip cover. And
Right.
so my husband was trying to help me get it, but it had gotten jammed on the mechanical stuff underneath of the recliner.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get it out. And so the dude on the front end loader comes by, and he says, oh, do you need some help with that? And he's like, yeah, my wife just wants to get this off before we take the chair. And he goes, oh, I can help you with that. And he drives up onto the grass and smashes the chair with the front of his front end loader. At which point, I mean, I just lost it. You know, I ran off screaming and crying, and left my husband there to tell the guy in no uncertain terms that while this is a job for you, these are people's lives, and they're having to give them up, and just smashing their possessions in front of them is not really. It's hard enough to watch you pick it up and put it in the dumpster thing, but I mean, at least there's, like, you know, that's happening. There's a little bit of dignity around it, sort of.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you know, just go and destroy someone's stuff right in front of them is probably not your best course of action. And it was, you know, I mean, I ran into the backyard, and I hugged a palm tree and cried for about 30 minutes. And, you know, it's that kind of stuff that's the hardest thing, to that loss of control.
Right.
And I think that's when, at the moment when you say, that's it, I can't do it anymore, and God, takes over. And that's when you get through those things. But it's a conscious choice every single day, because my nature is to go in and fix things. And every single day, and I can't fix them. I can't make FEMA do their jobs. I can't, I can't make tourists come back to our store. I can't save the slipcover off of my chair. I can't, all of those things that you just can't do. And when it's a one-off thing, it doesn't mean quite so much. But when it's every day and there's a new domino that falls, it's that loss of control that backs up. And I do think that's the hardest. But I think that in those moments, I think the adage of let go and let God really does come into play. But that's a conscious choice you have to make every day. And to see the good in other things. And so there are lots of good things. My neighbor, who I had never met 3 houses down, letting me use their bathroom because our toilet was gone. I got the opportunity to meet our neighbor after 2 years. I had never met them. And they had a lovely toilet and it flushed and it was amazing at that moment in time. So, there's like little things, like you wouldn't think that would be like such a blessing, but it was, because we'd never met them. And I would have never met them if I'd had a toilet in my house.
Right.
And those kinds of things were all around, but you have to want to see them. And I think, so that's a conscious choice too. And to recognize those things, not just for, neighbor has a potty, but to recognize them for the blessings that they are, that we do live in community and we do have people walking through this beside us. We are not alone. We can do this and we're stronger together. And so things like that. So making those choices, I think, when you feel like you have no choices. You may not have the choice, but you have the choices over who you are and how you respond to things, and choosing joy and choosing to see things the way that God wants you to see them is it's a choice. And so you can do it or you cannot, but it's not generally going to be the first instinct that comes to you. And so you have to put up your hand and you have to say, okay, I'm not choosing this. I'm choosing this.
Yeah.
Every day, sometimes every hour.
I love that you talked about that, because that's a great segue into the next part, is that you not only had this hurricane that you had to live through and you guys have had to rebuild after it, but then you had an accident earlier this year that's really changed the path that your life was on. Am I correct?
Yeah, just when you think the hurricane's the worst thing that can happen to you, actually.
Right.
A year ago, I was a little over a year ago, 15 months ago, I was hit by a teenager who was using their cell phone while they were driving. And he did not see the light. I had just pulled out. My light had just turned green, so I was going about 1 mile an hour, and he was going about 55. Oh, and he plowed into the side of my car. And what came out of that was what is diagnosed as a traumatic brain injury. I had 6 concussions. And so traumatic brain injury, post-concussive syndrome, a bunch of other things with letters. Similar to some of the stuff that has made the news recently with football players and CTE. A lot of similarities between that and a multiple concussive episode. And so, yeah, it really did. I continued to work for months, and I did medical leave for a little while. And then I came back to work, and then I had a manager who asked me to leave. And it wasn't really what I had planned on, and I felt that I was still, with accommodation, I could do my job. And according to the ADA and things like that govern those kinds of things, she felt differently. And so I was given the opportunity to reimagine how my life works. Instead of a career in communications for one of the largest high-tech companies in the world, I got the opportunity to see, what would I do? And most I've been a professional patient, honestly, for months now. There's a lot of therapy involved in it, and there aren't a lot of treatment paths for traumatic brain injury. It is becoming a thing now with our soldiers who are returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. TBI and PCS are some of the most common injuries that are coming back with them from blasts.
Right.
And with the football players and the rise of CTE. So a lot of research is going on right now. And I was just super amazingly fortunate to have found in doing some research and saying, the things that are being offered to me are not what I'm looking for. I was not really looking for retraining a damaged brain to work optimally with damage. That wasn't really what I wanted. I have 3 small children. I've got 3 kids under the age of 9. And my youngest was 5 months old when I was hit. So, there were things that I wanted to do with my life. I want to be a mom. I love my job. I love what I did. And so what was offered to me was not, just not acceptable. But going back to that control thing. So what do you do?
Yeah.
And what I do is just obsessively start researching things as I'm able to. And just started looking at things. And I found a clinic in another state out in Colorado that treated TBI through protocol that involved stem cells and platelet-rich plasma and some other things. And so actually, because I haven't been working, it was just financially, it wasn't really possible. And I have some amazing friends. A friend of mine was like, why don't you just start a GoFundMe? And I was like, okay, that sounds kind of cheesy. I don't really want to ask people for money. We don't.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't do that. You just don't go, so I want to go do this treatment. I need thousands of dollars. You want to pitch in. But what was crazy was people did.
That's amazing.
And my husband has a website dedicated to, we already talked about Baylor earlier, but my husband has a website dedicated to Baylor sports and athletics. And after about a week, one of the guys on the board picked it up and said, this is our mission, gang. Let's get it done. And they did. They raised 5 figures for me to go out and do this treatment.
Wow.
In just a matter of weeks. In about 2.5 weeks, it was done. And people I didn't even know, or, they knew my husband from the things that he did. But it was most of these people, I had a lot of friends and family who contributed to it too, and especially in that first week. But most of the people, and people who donated, like made 4-figure donations. There were a couple of them that I didn't even know.
That's amazing.
They didn't know me. I don't even know, I don't know who they are. I couldn't pick them out of the lineup. And it was an amazing opportunity to see the good in people. I think it is really tough, especially in the culture that we have today, where we are, you get up at 5 and you go work out, and then you go, and you do that yourself. You're kind of in your world there. And right. Then you go and you get your kids ready for school, and you drop them off at school, and you go to work, and you come home and you cook dinner, and you go to soccer practice or dance or this or that or whatever you're doing. And then everyone's in, put everyone to bed. And who have you really interacted with today? Who have you been in community with today? Because, as much as you love your coworkers, you're not in community with them. No. You're there to do a job, and you may go to lunch, and you may go to happy hour. You may go to, and you get to know your coworkers, and you know their lives, and they know yours, but you're not in community with them because you're there to do your job. If you were in community with them all day, your boss would fire you, right?
Right.
So we are not given to community really anymore. And a lot of us, our community is on the internet in the time that we waste on Facebook and maybe websites like my husband's and things like that. And so it's virtual community. And so you do life where it pertains to a certain interest, like in the case of my husband's website, or Facebook is a highly sanitized version of life. Like if I tell you a bad story, it's because it's funny, right? If I tell you about the time that my kid colored on the wall, it's because it's funny. And I just want you to empathize with me. I don't tell you about, the really bad stuff, right? That just the general, oh, my day is terrible and here is why, because nobody wants to listen to somebody whine and then it pops up in your time hop, the next year and you have to relive that day all over again.
Right.
We share the good stuff. We share the funny stuff. We share the ironic stuff. We share that, but we don't share the stuff.
Yeah.
We share the stuff we want to share. We create the life that we want people to see. And so we don't really live in community anymore. And this was just an amazing lesson to me about that concept, that people want to help. When people say, how's your day? Or how can I help? Tell them. If they can help you by just bringing over McDonald's for dinner, I mean, if the bar is that low, just tell them. Or maybe the bar is, I need 5 figures to go to Colorado to have someone shoot stem cells up my nose so my brain works again. And so we went out there last week, and I felt like I had a whole team. Like I had 200 people who had donated to this cause to get me there. And we went, and it was this charming little town in outside of Aspen, where the clinic is, and it felt almost more like a vacation in some ways. And the doctor was amazing, and he is totally on the cutting edge of this and hoping to get this in front of, working with the DoD to get this in front of our soldiers who need this kind of stuff. I mean, there's not a lot of hope for traumatic brain injury patients. There's a lot of determination and a lot of people who want to make their lives better, but there aren't pharmaceuticals for them. I mean, you wind up taking things off label, like Aricept is an Alzheimer's drug. Okay, well, we'll try and do this, or anti-seizure drugs, or migraine drugs, or, but there's nothing. We treat symptoms, but there's nothing that treats the cause, except this protocol treats the cause. And so, I spent 3 days having stem cells and stuff shot up my nose. And within 2 days, we noticed a huge difference just in me and how I handle things and speak, like I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you, without too many instances where I'm trying to come up with a word. And so, I'd been using my writing as therapy. One of my doctors, my neuropsychologist, encouraged me to continue to do that. He said, some people I tell to go do crossword puzzles or listen to music or whatever. You love writing, and so I know that you're going to stick with that. Don't overdo it because you'll cause more problems. But find that sweet spot. That's, is it 15 minutes a day? Is it 5 minutes a day? Is it, and challenge yourself to keep working up. And so that's what I've been doing. And so, recently, last month, put out a book in the First Street Church Kindle world, the novella there, and I know we're going to talk about that in a second. I've got another novella collection coming out with some amazing authors next week, August 22nd, with some wonderful authors who also write for Love Inspired, for folks who are fans of Harlequin's LI line. All the ladies in this collection are LI authors, myself included. And so I've just had a lot of fun turning my therapy really into some new, most of what I've done this year have been novellas. I'm looking forward to, after this therapy really kicks in, I'm looking forward to getting back to writing full-length books. But I've had 4 novellas out this year. So it's been good kind of working consistently to kind of do that. And so, I'm excited about the projects that I've had come out. This summer, Road to Love and Love's Way Home. And then coming up next will be the Love Lessons Back to School collection. So
very cool. So Love's Way Home, is that your one in the Kindle world?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, because I am in the November launch. And so we were talking before how I'm still working on mine. I need to get it finished by the end of this month, because it's approaching rather quickly.
Yes,
but how was writing for it? How was the process different? And then how's it going on the other end? Are you seeing a lot of people reading it? Are you even able to track that? Because I don't even know. Can you track it?
I haven't. the tracking is different. And I'm kind of used to this because I've written for Love Inspired, right? And
Right.
we have to use the Nielsen book scans and all those kind of things. And those are delayed. And then you really don't know how much you make until the royalties come out. And that's a quarterly thing. So I'm kind of used to being in the dark. You track it as best you can based on sales rank and things like that. But generally, I try not to obsess too much about it. It's hard because you know, I don't necessarily look at it as, oh yay, so many people are my book and how much am I making off of this or anything. Generally, I kind of about really when I put together Storm Surge and kind of the life lessons I learned from Hurricane, I realized that I don't get me wrong. It's nice to know that the book sells, but it's also really nice to read lovely reviews and know that your book has touched people. And I write inspirational romance. So there's like hope and happily ever after. And
Right.
those are two things that I take really seriously as a job and as an author. There aren't many jobs that you can do where you can bring that to people. You can make them feel good and you can give them hope in their own lives. And so I think that's my denominator there. It's not really sales for the sake of sales, but sales because those are people who I believe, are hopefully having their lives impacted, their hearts touched something by hope and happily ever after. So with independently published projects, it's really easy to, if you use it, go through the Kindle publishing program or any of those, it's really easy to see. You can see pretty much almost real time, get, daily stats.
Yeah, it's pretty fast.
It's amazing coming from a traditionally published background where you can't. It's the craziest thing ever. But I have not seen actual stats outside of just kind of following where the book has been. And some days it's been really fabulous. So I do think that people have picked it up, and I hope that they've enjoyed it. I have done multi-author collections before, right? Where 6 authors in a themed novella together, kind of thing, with our themed collection of novellas. Sorry, I've done several of those, and I've had a blast doing this. But this was my first time to actually be a part of a Kindle world, which for your audience that isn't familiar with those, it's Amazon licenses world. So like I write in my world of Port Providence in most of my books. So it would be like licensing my island and letting everybody go play there in the sandbox. So,
right.
So in this case, they have licensed to the town of Sweet Grove, Texas, from Melissa Storm, from her First Street Church series of romances. And I have known Melissa for a while, for about a year. And I really love Melissa. And when she got this opportunity, I just knew it was something I wanted to be a part of. Really to kind of challenge myself, do something a little different, meet new authors. There were 20 of us in the July launch. And so just getting to meet new people, try something new, and really kind of test myself writing in someone else's world than my own. And it was a lot of fun. That group of 20 authors, some of them I knew before. I have been in a collection with Patricia Carroll before, and I'm going to be in one at the end of the year with Liz Isaacson. I've been in several collections with Jessica Keller. So a lot of these folks, Lacey Williams is a good friend of mine. So several of the folks that are in that July launch were already friends of mine and people that I've worked with and love. But then lots of other people I've gotten to meet through it. And I just really had a blast because it was a really generous, giving group of people. They were excited to be there. Different people with lots of different ideas and ways of writing and themes of writing. Emily Murdoch put her spin on it by writing a historical, like Sweet Grove Beginnings, which is amazing too to me, because like this is how awesome I think Emily is. She lives in England, and she wrote a story about like frontier Texas.
Oh, wow. I didn't know she lived in England.
Yeah. And so it's like super cool. I think and she just like dug into that, and she's like, I just really want to write this in this time period. And, it's kind of interesting because in England, the history goes way, 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 way back. You could have written, Sweet Grove in 1275.
Yeah, exactly.
That. And so, I loved how many people were like jumping in to say, oh, no, or yes, or, oh, maybe this, or maybe, because Texas in 1675 is not a thing.
Right. It doesn't exist.
Nothing. And so, Texas in 1775, it's not a thing. So, but what, I took some pictures. We had an old cabin was discovered literally 5 minutes from my house. And as it turns out, they are ancestors of my nanny's family, which is just
Oh
great.
my goodness.
And a friend of ours who is a developer bought this, what had been like a farm, and he was going to section it off to build like 12 houses there. And there was one house, and it was their land around it. And there had been rumors about this house, but nobody really knew. Whatever. He went in one day to start pulling drywall down just to kind of to tear this house down to build these other houses. And oh my gosh, the rumors are true. There is a cabin built in the 1840s that had been walled up inside of this house. They basically turned it into their living room.
Oh my gosh.
And so I took pictures of it. I happened to be, my nanny's family reunion took place there this year. And I crashed their family reunion because I had wanted to see the cabin for a while. But when they were giving tours of it after they first discovered it, I was miserably pregnant. I was huge. And there was no way I was standing in a 2-hour line in Texas heat in the summer. So I pretended to be part of my nanny's family. And graciously, they didn't even question the fact that I was there. Like her aunts and stuff were like, hey, how are you?
Oh, that's awesome.
But so I took pictures and sent them to Emily, and people researched things for her now. And that is just the spirit of this group. And not saying it to say Emily's book or my photo taking skills or anything like that, but that was just the spirit of the group. Everybody wanted to know what people were doing, and I'm creating, the vet, and who else is going to have animals that come into the vet in their story. And hey, has anyone thought about a bakery? And just really kind of taking Melissa's vision for the town and just boom, exploding it. And so it was a lot of fun. And, there's the November group coming up that you're in. A group of us that were in the July group are doing Christmas themed novellas. Those will come out in the middle of November, I think. I'm totally
okay.
First world brain injury problems. I'm forgetting the date, but in the middle of November, we're not part of the organized launch like for you guys on the 20th, but there's about 10 of us who are like, well, let's just do a Christmas novella. So if you like Christmas novellas, those will be out. And then I've got a separate Christmas collection that actually 3 of us from the July launch, Liz Isaacson, Jessica Keller, and myself will all be in a separate like cowboy Christmas themed collection having nothing to do with Sweet Grove. But it's just fun to get to. Writing can be, I think everyone probably has heard some author say some variant of this at one form or another. It can be a little bit lonely because you sit there at your computer all day and you talk to imaginary people. So lonely. You got to want to do this. So it's really fun to develop those relationships. I think I kind of dogged on Facebook earlier about presenting a sanitized view of life, but it is really good for projects like this because you can create a group that, it's just y'all, and you can just kind of go back and forth and get to develop friendships and projects and things like that probably, you could 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been doing this. I would have met people at a conference once a year. And now, somebody like Jessica I talk to almost every day.
That's amazing.
And so it's been a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun writing the story. It was it was a story that came to me really fast. Layla and Brad's story. And for copyright reasons, I can't tell you the name of the hurricane that Layla left from in the book. But if you've read any of my other books, you know what you know where she left from and what hurricane she was going from. So I still got a Port Providence tie in there. But it's a story about finding out who you are. And Layla is someone who has never known who she is. She was adopted as a child and has no family background and no support. And she goes through this hurricane and her job is gone and her house is gone. And she's like, hey, I don't have anything else. I may as well go find out who I am. And all she's got is a necklace, kind of little Orphan Annie style, a locket that has a piece of paper with some clues in it. And she's like, I'm going to this town and I'm going to find this lady and I'm going to find out who I am. And when she gets there, she meets Brad, whose family has been in the town for generations. He sells real estate in there so that you too can move to Sweet Grove because it's such a great place to live. And he knows exactly who he is. And his family has been very important in Central Texas. And they're just polar opposites. And he is one of the pieces. He winds up being one of the pieces to the puzzle to Layla finding out who she is. And when she gets what she wants, is that really what she wants? And I think a lot of us are like that, right? We spend so much time putting this glorified ideal of what we want in our life and how it's whatever it is, it's gonna work out perfectly, whether it's getting the perfect job, you find the job description and immediately you decide that's for me and they're going to hire me and it's going to be great. Or, whatever it is, but we get what we want and we want what we want until we get it. And then when reality doesn't always match up, like what do we do? And what are the choices that we make in the wake of that? And so that's the theme that I really wanted to explore in this book, because I think it's pretty universal.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun, and I try to do that with most of my books. Is just what is that universality? What is that common theme that where we all see ourselves in a little bit of the mirror of the story of whatever the hero and the heroine are going through. So this one was fun to write, and I've had some readers come back and say that they loved it, and so I've been very grateful for that.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to read it. As soon as I finish mine, then I'll probably start looking through them. But I didn't want to get too many ideas in my head from people who are writing, because there are things you can use and things you can't use, and I didn't want any of that in my brain before I started. But I beta read for Sharon Houston, who's also in the November launch, and thankfully hers takes place at a school, and I don't go near a school in mine, so I'm like, okay, we're good. But yeah, so I'm excited to finish. I think I just hit 10,000 words last night.
Oh,
so
excellent.
Woohoo, we're halfway there.
Yes.
Yeah, now we're on the downhill trend. So I'm excited, and we'll make sure and put the links above in the article, and people can follow you on Amazon and your website so that they can find out about these new releases coming on. And I'm so excited to hear that you are doing better and the stem cell treatment has done wonders for you. And I'm going to keep praying that your health keeps coming back every day, because that's exciting.
I appreciate that. There's still like good days and bad days, but I can really see a difference. And they told me it's about a 6-month process. There's like a short term and there's a long term part of the treatment. So we've already seen results, and we know it's not an overnight thing. And so we're just continuing to remain hopeful. And I take all my medications and stuff that I need to do.
Well, we are going to stay in touch so that I can speak with you again, because I would love to know at the 6-month mark how everything is looking. And I think that our viewers will too, because they're going to be really interested to follow your story.
Well, cool. So definitely, you can just go to my website and sign up for my newsletter. So I put that up. I'm actually off. I missed a week because I was in Colorado and my internet was terrible, and I went to sleep a lot after all the treatments. So I'm a little bit behind, but I do try to get a newsletter once or twice a month, and sometimes it's stuff about me and books and all that. I really enjoy getting to know readers and doing that. So my newsletter is a little bit non-traditional in that way. You know, sometimes they throw in a recipe, sometimes they throw in a crazy story, sometimes it's all books, sometimes it's different stuff. So it's you definitely get to know the real and slightly random me. So
I love it.
So definitely just go. It's super easy to find on my website. So
Awesome.
There. So
well, we will make sure and link those. And I want to say thank you again for joining us. And for all of you viewers out there, we'll see you again right here next week on Right the World.
Bye. Thanks for having me.